Hello, my name is Eric. It's a new year, so let's make some fireworks. So let's just go to the Fusion page. In here, we're going to right click Media Pool and say New Fusion Composition. I'm going to name this Fireworks. Great. Now let's double click on the fireworks composition we just created to open it. When you see the media out, it means it's open. So now let's just go ahead and put down a P emitter. We're also going to need a particle render. Connect the particle emitter to the particle render, and let's view the P render. I'm going to reposition my viewport so that I'm looking straight on the Z, so the X is pointing to the right. Now let's just go into the P emitter. Go to the region tab and change it region to line. Set the end X to somewhere about that, and you can actually move the start X to roughly just take up the space over here. So I'm gonna also pan down a bit. Right now when we play, there's nothing really happening. The particles are being born, but there's no velocity on them, so they're not really doing anything. So let's just go into the particle emitter, and on the velocity, we're just gonna increase the velocity to 1 for now. And when we play, you can see that they're moving onto the x-axis because we've not told the particles which angle to move. Set the angle to 90 degrees so that they move on the y-axis. Let's reduce the rate of the particle. Let's just set it to the minimum, like 0.1. Go to the style, change it from point to blobs. Great. We're also gonna zoom out a bit, pan down, so we have more space. Great. Now the particles are just moving forever and they're not ending. It's because we haven't set the life for our particles. So we go back to the particle page and set the lifespan to 30. That way, after 30 frames, they're gonna die off. Perfect. We just have to make sure we add some kind of gravity to it, so they just shoot up and then slowly settle down before they die off. So to achieve that, we're just gonna bring in particle friction. Now when we play, you can see they just ease out and then die off. Go ahead and increase velocity a bit more. Let's just make it like 2. Now we're also gonna pan down so we can see, we don't want to see the line, so it's like it's coming from the bottom. I'm gonna rename the friction to suspend. So when I add a particle spawn, it just crashes my computer. So I advise you don't pipe it in. Deselect everything and then just add your P spawn. So I basically sometimes try to set the number of particles to a minimal number, let's say 0.1. That way it doesn't crash. So I'm just gonna pipe it in here. So now when we play, we can see that we're spawning some particles, but they're looking weird. It doesn't look like a trail. Let's go into the particle spawn and see what we can do. In the velocity tab, bring the velocity transfers, because it's transferring the velocities from the original particles that's being spawned from. That's why we're getting this weird kind of trail. So we're gonna just take it down to 0. So that way it's not taking any velocity. The particles are being born as where they appear, as where the original one appears. So right now we're just gonna make it like 1, so we get some more particles to play with, and that's cool. Great. So now we just don't want to create this endless trail, so what we're gonna do is set the lifespan of that trail to 30, and that way we get this kind of cool trail. But 30 is quite a bit too much, so we set well at 10. 10 will do, yes. So we get this nice cool trail that's following up. Alright, so let's go ahead and set the style for the trail as well. We're gonna change it. We're gonna change it from point to blobs as well, and we wanna go to the size and scale it down. Use the size over life. So if we just drag this down, it's gonna scale it over life. So we have this kind of taping going on. We also want to change the color whilst we're here, so we're going to the color tab. We want to choose something a bit orange, yeah, something like that. But that's cool. Great. So we have our first set going on. Just disable this one so you can see what this is. this is the actual particle, the initial one. So we want to group them. The way to group them is to go onto this tab that says sets. So we're going to set it to set 1. So what we're essentially doing here is that we're telling that these particles have been named set 1, so we can affect only those particles later on. So I'm gonna go ahead and enable these ones, and also in the spawn particles we can also hit F2 to rename it. So we're gonna call this trail, and we can also group that one. So we go into the sets and we set that one to set 2. So we have 2 particles grouped. So let's go ahead and do our explosion. With explosion, again, we're gonna use P spawn, and I'm not gonna connect it yet. I'm going to the particles and make sure we set it to 1, number of particles to 1, and also set the lifespan to 30 as well. Now we can just connect it, and right away I'm just gonna name it, rename it explosion. If we play right now, we can see we're spawning particles from all the particles in the scene, which is why we use the sets. Under conditions, we're gonna say do not affect set. So what essentially means is that all the sets that has been checked here, this spawn is not gonna affect them. So we're only gonna uncheck the one we want it to affect, because it's not checked. It's gonna only affect the set 1. So let's play it and see. So we can see it's spawning only on the first ones, but it's not really making it any different. We go on to the spawns, explosion spawns velocity, and we're just gonna increase the velocity for now. We're getting this strange look. That's because the trail is affecting every other set, because we go to the sets of the trail, it's a glowing set, so it's affecting everything. So that means we just have to specify which set this trail is affecting. It's only supposed to affect the first ones. So we're gonna go on to do not affect specify sets, and we're gonna check set 1. So it's only gonna affect this but not these ones. But it's still not working. It's because we haven't set a set for our explosion. So we're gonna go ahead and do that and set that one to set 3. And that way the trail color and the trail is not affecting it. So it's only spawning the top ones. But right now they're all moving on to the right, which is the velocity that we set here does not have any angle. So we're gonna change the angle variance to 360 degrees. That way it's gonna go all around it. So if we play, we can see we don't want the transfer velocity, we don't need it, so we bring that one to 0. So but right now the issue we have in here is though it's spawning from the top one, but it's doing it throughout the whole scene. So we go into the explosion under the sets. You see we have an option for age, so we're gonna trim it down to the end, so it's only gonna happen at the end of the particle. So we get this explosion. We're just getting single particles just because we set the number of particles to 1. So we're gonna increase it to about 100 for now, and we can see we have this ring of explosion going on. Certainly don't want this ring, so change the velocity variance a bit, just bump it up a bit so they don't all move at the same time. So we get this explosion going on. Quickly we're just gonna change the style of explosion so we can see well. So we change it to blobs as well, and we also gonna go onto the color, and we're not touching the main color. We just want to use color over life, and what it is that it uses this gradient to grade the color from over. So at the start of the particles we want this cyan color, or let's say yes, it's a bit bluish, sea blue color, and then we want to end the color with pink, purple, or let's just do pink. Want to end it pink. So you can see the explosion at the beginning of the explosion, you get this, and then it fades into that color. I think the velocity is a bit higher, so I'm gonna go back here and then bring the velocity down to about that, so it doesn't just shoot out like that. Let's do the velocity about 0.8 and bring the variance down about 0.3. Okay, so let's see what we have. Cool. Yeah, I think the variance should stay 0.5. Great. So we get this cool particles, explode, 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 and explode. We need another trail from the explosion itself. So let's go ahead and do that. So I'm gonna make some space here, shift this one here, put down another P spawn. I'm not gonna connect it yet. I'm just gonna set the particles to 0.1 and also set the life to 30 as well. And now we can connect it. Right now it's spawning on every other particle in the scene, so let's let it only spawn on the explosion. So let's check the set for the explosion. That's set free. So I'm gonna go in that spawn. I'm going to go to sets and I'm say again, don't affect specific set, and we uncheck free. So that way it's only going to spawn on the explosion. So let's play and see if that works. Yes, it works. We're spawning some particles from the explosion. But then again, we have this trail thing happening to it. So we go into the trail again. It's copying. It's nice actually. It's copying the trail effects that we created. We need to name this explosion trail. Have to set that one to 4. Great. So the trail, we want to make sure it's only affecting set 1 and not every other thing. So to explain better, let me just go about this. The sets works in a way that we set the emitter to set 1, we set the trail itself to set 2, and we set the explosion to set 3, and then explosion's trail to set 4. And we're telling this trail here, it doesn't matter where it is, it will affect everything if you don't set some rules for it. So in that trail, we go to its rules, that's conditions, and we say do not affect specific set. That means every set that we've checked here, it shouldn't affect it, but we haven't checked set 1, which is this one, so it's going to affect that one. So the same thing to the explosion, we say on the condition, we say do not affect sets, so explosion is only affecting the first one. And then on the explosion trail, we go there, the same thing, we say do not affect all but the thread, which is the explosion. That's why we get these new particles. So let's go on to the explosion trail and dress it up and go to the style, and this time we're going to choose the style to be a line, and in the line we're gonna go ahead and set the size and scale it up a bit. Let me play and see. We're not seeing the line properly. Let me just do set side to velocity. You can see that we have a problem here, that our line is not following the direction of our particles. To achieve that, we just want to go into the trails particle settings, and then we want to go to rotation, and we just want to uncheck always face camera. And also we want to change the rotation mode to relative motion. That way it's going to take the rotation of the velocity of the particles it's spawning from. So you can see now we have the particles pointing in the right direction. Great. So now we can go to the style and we can increase our size. We can scale to velocity, so the higher the speed, the size increases as well. And we can also scale it over life, so getting to the end it has to fade, so we have some kind of taping going on as well. We have our cool particles going, so we're going to make sure that we delay the explosion trails a bit. So we're going to go into it velocity, reduce the velocity transfer, so we're going to set it to about 80%, so that's going to be like 0.8 thereabout, so that you can see the spawn particles are lagging behind the explosion itself. Now let's go ahead in the explosion style. We're going to set the color to something orangish like the trail color, or a bit yellowish. I think we should increase the size a little bit more. Let's make it 1. I'm gonna add some glow to it, but before we do that, I'm gonna go into the explosion. We want the explosion to be brighter than the other particles. So later on, when we put glow on it, we can use a threshold to set the glow according to the brightness. So we go into the explosion style, And under the gradient color, select this first color. We can see we have what we call value is set to 1. You can bump this value up to like 2, as well as the end color value to 2 as well. And we want to do the same for the trails as well. To the style, I'm gonna go to the color. Since it's one color, I'm just gonna set it to 2. The explosion should glow more than the trails, so I'm gonna make the explosion rather fray. I'm gonna make this one to fray as well. Set it to fray. So you can see we have this bright explosion going on. I'm gonna move this forward and then create another knot here, and it's gonna be a sharp one. That one I'm gonna choose a color white. I'm gonna really bump this up to about 5. So let's see what we have. So at the sharp one before the first color comes. So as you can see, we get a bright. If we move this a bit, we can see it properly. So yeah, so we go. I'm gonna really increase this up to like 10. So let me just see what we have. So you can see we have a bright white at the beginning of the explosion. So we're just gonna render our scene out camera 3D, and then we also need render 3D as well. Now I'm just gonna merge my camera on top of the P render so it creates a merge for us, and then I'm gonna output the merge to the renderer. So let's just see what the render looks like. Yep, we've not set our camera, so I'll go back to view the 3D view. I'm gonna copy the perspective to the camera. So now we can just view the renderer, and I'm gonna right click and change the checker on delay. So I'm gonna go to options, checker on delay, and just uncheck it. I'm gonna view the 3D view here. I'm gonna zoom out a little bit. So again, copy it to the camera. Great, so if we play it here, we can see our particles. The trails of the explosions are not being rendered, and that's because the software renderer does not render lines. So you want to change the type to OpenGL. That way you can see your lines. So I'm going to pipe this into the media out, and then I'm going to select the renderer. I'm going to add a soft glow. Let's view this media out. The soft glow, we're going to restrict it to only the brightest area. This is the reason why we use the value. So start to dial this threshold. You can see, you can select which one you really want to affect. So I'm going to leave it to the brightest one, because we want the brightest one to be really bright. And we're not going to set again to that much. And we're going to bring the glow size down. Just like that. Now we're gonna copy the glow, paste again. This time we wanted to reduce this threshold and also increase the glow size. So gradually we gain it up a little bit, and then we copy again, paste. Now we reduce this threshold again. We might have a final one, then increase the glow size, then we can have a final one. This one we leave this threshold to like 0 so it affects everything. Then bring the gain down a bit and really bump up this glow size to about 150. Great. So we have this nice glow. Let's see what we have. Let's play and see what we get. So you see that flash at the beginning is the white that we created. So it gives you that kind of explosion. Right, I'm just gonna play the cached one to see. So you can see we get that flash at the beginning. I think it's too much, so we're gonna go into the explosion, and under the first color we want to reduce from 10 to about 5, and also reduce this one to 2 and reduce that one to 2 as well. I think 3 is alright. Leave it at 3 if it's 2 or 3. great. So we reduce this one to like 6, and also we can see that our explosion trails are not really standing out, so let's go ahead and increase the value for that one as well to 3. Then we also want to increase the size to 1 and the size itself to 2. We can move this one here to increase the size of it as well. Right, so there you have it. Thanks for watching, thanks for subscribing. Keep on subscribing, hit the notification button. Check the link in the description to follow me on Patreon. That way you can get all the templates that I create, including this one. It's been Eric.